Well, it didn't play my intro. So, hello, y'all. I don't know what the heck happened there. Hold on. Maybe I can still play it. If I can, I'm going to. Oh, here we go. I'm going to do it just because I guess I can.
Yeah. Intro time.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, there it was, guys. I'm so sorry about that.
Epic. I would have been so pissed off if we didn't get to see that. Hell yeah.
Oh man, I'm glad you are you a metalhead?
I can't I like a lot of heavy music. I can't claim the distinction of being a metalhead.
See, there's like so much of that rock for me, or metal, if you will, or death metal that is like beyond what I'm willing to listen to. But there is like that gray area I enjoy. But I think you and I are kind of alike on that. Like that's probably the hardest I'm getting into is that music.
Yeah, but I fucking love it. But
absolutely
screaming all day, every day can get a little much. But
yeah, it gets stressful even.
Yeah.
I do want to make sure, because I always forget to, Benjamin, this is for you. Every now and then we'll have a little bit of a lag. So if I accidentally interrupt you or you interrupt me, there's no disrespect. I just want to let you know sometimes it does that. But either way, man, I'm so happy to be here because I found you through Patrick. It's funny, I say that a lot, man. He's very influential, and he's a guy that I've been watching for years now. It's crazy. And what he said was, if you want a science fiction fantasy mash that is truly unique and authentic in its feel, in the way the story develops, that doesn't hold your hand, and I know what he means by that. It's like, pick this, The Failures up. Pick up Benjamin Lyre's work. So I know I've said your name in the book, but would you please introduce yourself?
Oh man, this is the hardest part of the whole thing.
I understand.
I'm Benjamin Lyre. I wrote a book called The Failures. It's the first in a trilogy called The Wanderlands. There it is. There's that beauty.
It is.
Am I allowed to say I love my own cover?
You can say that. You can, buddy. You can cuss. You can say anything you want.
I didn't have nothing to do with it. So yeah.
Well, since you're saying the cover already, like who is it that did the cover?
Well, that's it's a traditionally published novel, and of course they asked me my opinion, and I actually didn't really like the early version of that one. I would have gone a different direction, and I was so wrong. Oh my god, I was so wrong. And I'm really glad they my editor and the folks over there who are professionals and know what's going to catch eyes and stuff. A bunch of it's a team effort. A bunch of people have input. But very rightly so, a lot of times authors don't get to pick the one they like because, there's... and again, I was super wrong, and I'm really glad somebody picked that one over what I would have picked, right? So now I see it, and I'm just like, oh, I love it so much. Thank you.
As somebody who's getting more familiar with the work inside of this wonderful book, it's like, only then can I truly take this cover and it starts to make more sense. And it really, honestly, within the first couple chapters, makes a lot of sense. But even before so, it's beautiful. Like you've got some things that you start to wonder about. There's a mountain in the back. There's some gears that you start to make more sense as you read the wonderful beginning of the book. And I'm trying not to go in too far in the beginning, so we'll start here. I know I have some wonderful things that I want to know personally, because again, it's in my head, there's, I don't know other word that comes to mind, but systematic, but that's just me and the way that certain things are explained. And I love that. Like, I love that. So an introduction that I had planned out was actually just verbatim because I loved it so much from your website. So I'm going to take a big breath and I'm going to repeat or just say what you had written because I love it so much. Science fiction author of The Failures, or science fiction fantasy author of The Failures. You are a writer, filmmaker, game developer, bartender, cartographer. You are an estimator, semi-pro drinker. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ditch digger, file organizer. I love organizing files. Rockabilly bassist. Love that. I'm a drummer. Bad actor. Screenwriter. House painter. Passionate. Fort builder. Reformed preacher. Drywall hanger. Decent friend. Terrible lover.
That's true.
I love it, man. That look,
Thanks.
there's so many aspects of that that I underlined. First being the file organizer, because I love doing that. Why did you put that?
I had a job that's basically like, well, I mean, fucking sue me. I basically wrote most of the first draft of the failures like on the clock at that job. But I was just kind of like organized files for a bunch of engineers, and it was just one of those jobs where I got like, if I cared and tried, I could get all of my work done in like an hour in the morning.
Oh wow.
I mean, not every day. I definitely earn my money a lot of days, but there was definitely days where like, you know,
I get it. When I read file organizer, I'm brought back to a younger me who had the 80 gig iPod. And I would go through and I downloaded my music off of LimeWire. I don't know if anybody over here is old enough in the comments to remember a LimeWire and all of the viruses that it would bring along with it. But it was so fun to just sit and organize, man.
Yeah.
Rockabilly bassist is another thing I underlined. The rockabilly band that I love is Volbeat. You know Volbeat?
This much, yeah.
Okay. They are like a twist with Elvis and like some John Wayne or Hank Williams. And they're so good. So that's what I was brought. So do you play still?
No, this was sort of I still play music now and again, as evidenced by the guitars that you can see.
I do see them now. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to go to these open mics and met a bunch of friends, and there's this like an awesome dude named Rick Fluger still playing music, and they had this wild country rockabilly band where there's literally like one of the band members had this giant like rocking chair with a gear shifter where smoke would come out and like a jug of whiskey, and
hell yes,
it was just it. And they were like, "You're fun. Do you know how to play bass?" And I was like, "Kind of." And they're like, "You're in."
I slap at the bass.
Yeah, we would just get ripped and play music, and it was a lot of fun. I don't know if it sounded good to listen to, but it was fun as hell.
Man, and that's what matters, dude. I love it. Because people I think are a little dissociated from being even just like a beginner musician, but if you bring a beginner guitarist, bassist, drummer, and a singer, it will sound better than you will imagine. It'll sound right off the rip. It sounds good. It's inspiring. And then you continue to go.
Yeah.
What's up, Jeff? It's good to see you here, man. I see people freaking over the TikTok ban, which is never like this thing where there's a concrete yes or no. My wife makes 98% of our like income on TikTok. So hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, we have backup plans. And so many people are like that. But anyways, not to interject that into an interview, but I did see you, Jeff, and I know that you're on there all the time, but it's good to see you here, man.
Yeah, that's a big topic.
I'm so sorry. Please, what was you saying?
Oh, I was just TikTok. That's a big thing. I'm barely on there, and I'm crying over here.
I don't remember the exact number, but it's an incredible amount of people in America, just in America. And this is a worldwide plot, as far as I understand, there's many countries.
A lot of people, a lot of really talented people are gonna either lose their livelihoods or really have a rough road because of this. So
yeah.
Not to get too serious, but
right. No, I agree. I do agree. So tell us, I always love to start with this because a lot of the people I speak with, whether it be author, poet, editor, there's usually a young memory. So the question is, tell us kind of like your earliest memory of when you knew you had a passion for literature.
Oh, that's I have a very clear memory of like when I found my first genre book, my first science fiction book that had a huge, profound effect on me. Yeah, and I don't know that I have a specific moment. I have a specific moment when I decided I want to start writing this thing. But just writing in general is something I just always I reading was my escape. It was my way to, like so many people, like it was a way to get out of my, teenage angsty whatever, and escape into another world. And it was my favorite sensation. And of course, it's always something I wanted to do for myself and for other people. I'm gonna go with I was at a oh, what do you call those? Like just sort of like a flea market,
Yeah.
but more structured. My parents used to do these all the time with my grandparents, and you get a little booth and you sell stuff. And um,
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking. Like yeah, I know where everybody sets up. It's a little bit different, no matter who it is, and you just sell like kind of like a festival, but not
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like it's a lot of conventions. They have rooms like that, but
conventions.
just like this out in the woods or whatever. And there was somebody had a bunch of used paperbacks, and I found one. It was Space Cadet by Robert Heinlein,
Okay.
and never read any science fiction before, and I was just like, after that, I was done. I was cooked. I was
So
in.
what age was that?
Maybe 10 or 11, I
Okay,
think. Yeah.
formative years.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't have memories of this, but my mom told me I used to read, and I love my mom so much, but she likes to embellish a good story, as I do. It's probably
As
where I go.
everyone kind of
But
does,
I
right?
don't know how much of this is my mom being cute, but she says I used to read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when I was a kid, and she was just like, you would read it, you'd get to the end, you'd flip back to the beginning, and you just start reading again. You're just like, would just read it over and over and over again. This was maybe when I was 4 or 5 or something like that. So
That is
yeah,
special, and to have your mom kind of tell you that, it's got to be special too. Like for me, just a super quick recap so that you understand where I'm coming from a little bit better. I didn't start reading until I was 29. I'm 34. So hearing those kind of foundational stories, I love that. And it's something I want to replicate with my kids and so forth. So that's why I ask, and it's also telling in the long run too. Like those things we're influenced by as a younger person often translate, even if like say you're into books or I was into books like at 10 and I'm an engineer now, or I'm a painter, whatever. I feel like all things lead to their inevitable, I don't know, their journey based on past experiences. But that's just my overthinking brain wanting to kind of put those together. So I love that, man.
oh yeah, and
Um,
I agree. I agree.
I wanted to make sure to shout some people out when I get the chance. Your agent is Matt Byler.
I think it's pronounced Baylor, but
Baylor. Okay. I wasn't sure. And he's through.
I always get to. Uh, oh my goodness, this is my worst nightmare.
Oh, no, no, no. Don't let it
My
be.
brain's good at output, but it's not good at requests for information.
It doesn't even really, as long as we got his name, really.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I saw and I thought that I would mention just so people knew, but his
Yeah,
name is the most important. Matt Baylor, as you said.
yeah, yeah.
That's
He's
wonderful. So how has he helped you? How has that been where let's start here because I love this process too. Well, I know it's a hard process for those in that process. How did finding an agent go for you, and did it take a long time? Was it quick? And how has the experience been with an agent?
I'll tackle the first part of it. Um, I so most people, if you're trying to get traditional agent representation, knows it takes a long time. Like it's a really hard road, um, really long process. And I think I sent out my first query on a Monday, and I was signed with Matt by Friday.
Wow,
So
dude.
yeah, I have plenty of hard knock stories after that, but it was wild. Yeah,
In that moment where you like, hold on, pinch me real quick.
oh yeah, I mean, I was prepared for like years long waits, and I almost didn't even send my query to him because he was like I made a giant spreadsheet of every agent that and I ranked him by all these things, and he was just like, that's Patrick Rothfuss's agent, that's Ted Williams' agent.
Oh,
This
wow, I
guy,
didn't know that.
yeah, he's a superstar. I mean,
Dude.
he's launched some of my favorite books of all time. So I was like, there's no way this guy even glances at me. But I was like, you know what? Get used to rejection. Send it to your top 10. Get rejected. Get used to it. And then 2 years from now, you find an agent. And then Matt's assistant found me in the slush somehow. And yeah, he had an offer within a week, which was, I still can't believe it to say it out loud. So that.
Well,
I'm a jerk. Anybody who wants to find me and just kick me in the shins, I deserve it. I get it.
I don't think you deserve it, man.
That
But
part of the process was very, very easy for me. And again, not the rest of it has had its share of hiccups, but yeah.
yeah, well, honestly, congrats on that part being a little bit less of a stressor for you, because I looked at the back of your book a while ago, and now that I'm looking, the first blurb is from Tad Williams. So I was actually going to ask about that, but now I get it now. Tad Williams, I'm a huge fan of his, huge fan. It's not like I grew up reading, but I understand the influence he's had and still has. And I actually got to talk to him, and it's incredible that the same agent, represents you, man. That's got to be cool. And then Christopher Rocchio, Daniel Cohen, Seb Dubinsky, and Kevin J. Anderson all representing your wonderful book on the back. And that's got to be something that you're so proud of.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that, when we talk about traditional publishing, it is one of the reasons why you sell your soul, is because then you have some people with amazing connections. Like I would never have been able to get my book in Tad Williams' hands or Christopher Rocchio's hands. That's the team that was helping me out was able to do that. And that's, again, as we had said before we turned the thing on, it's those personal connections and those recommendations that are everything. It's why people read books. It's because somebody you trust told you to read a book, right? Not because you saw the right TikTok, well, back to TikTok, but or Instagram reel or whatever. You're
yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, so
100%. Like, just for instance, like, just what I said, just hearing somebody like Patrick talk about your work, and that is always a beautiful thing. And man, I think that helps a ton, and it speaks to a lot of what I like to talk about on this channel in particular, because I have all walks of life, whether you're a self-pub author, traditionally pub author, both journeys are very different with similar goals. And everybody's is different. Every journey is different. And I love to hear about that. And it's special. Everybody's journey is special. And I take a little bit of something as well as my viewers from everybody's story.
That's great. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's what I was saying before. Sometimes it's laggy and we do that.
Yeah. Real quick, and then I'm going to answer the second part of your question just because it's interesting. But the Renegade Bard, the Tom Swift Jr. books. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Love books. Oh my goodness. Thanks for that shout. I haven't thought about those in years. That's amazing.
Well, I'm officially writing that down.
I mean, they're like, I don't even know if they're YA books. They're kids books. But they were
still,
yeah.
Like, I have 4 kids, and that would be brilliant.
They're very like, from what I remember, they're very like 50s, 60s sort of, but super aspirational sci-fi that you don't really see too much anymore. But,
okay.
Anyway,
yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick, but you had asked how getting an agent helped my career, to paraphrase.
Yeah. So like, how long it kind of took you to get an agent, and then how has that benefited getting that book into people's hands, which you've covered a little bit. Maybe explain a little bit more on what you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that when you're an up and coming writer and you want to get, I mean, I think the goal for a lot of writers in whatever way is to just have other people read your work and get it out there. Some people are suited to the hustle and the self-promotion of indie publishing, and they can make great success with that. I've always known that I don't have that gear. I don't have the ability to do that. I didn't with my music career. I just don't. I need help with that. So traditional publishing made the most sense for me, even though you do give up a lot for it, and your career is in other people's hands. But traditional publishing is essentially impossible without an agent. And finding an agent and finding a good agent that you vibe with, that believes in what you do, is, I would not be talking to you right now without Matt Bieler. So
That's an important point to make, and I'm glad that you did, because I can agree with you. Me as an individual, I would have a hard time finding that fifth, sixth gear. Um, I am hard on myself. I'm very I'm very led astray with other things, and I think I agree really intensely with what you just said. Like, I've seen successful both sides of the spectrum, and those that are very successful with self-publishing are relentless, man. Like, if that person has a sword and like we're fighting, like that person's going to drive that sword into my heart quicker than I can say holy shit. Like, I totally get what you're saying, and it's a wonderful thing to kind of think about too. Like, humans all are good at something, and I think being honest about what we're good about or what we're not good at is eye-opening, and I think it translates to so many different people as well in their experience, or if so many people in the chat are writing themselves. So it's all eye-opening and important to talk about. All right, so we've talked a little bit about your work, but now let's kind of dive a little farther into it. Tell us about The Failures. What's the series name? And then kind of your plans with it, and what can people expect? Kind of like an overview of the beginning of your trilogy.
Ooh. So it's called the trilogy will be called the Wanderlands. At this point, I only have 3 planned. I think the story's going to be done after 3. Like, the arc of the story I want to tell is going to be done after 3, and then it's very hard for me to imagine telling another story in that world after.
Okay.
Almost like spoiler, but
Yeah.
the thing will be, I have a very specific destination to get to. I'm going to get there at the end of the 3rd book. I want to write other stuff. Also, I have a bunch of ideas. I have a bunch of whatever. I love a writer who can just pick a fucking world and just be like, yeah, that. I'm just writing that for the next 40 years, and I love that. That's so
Tad
cool.
Williams, dude.
But I don't have that. I like, yeah. Anyway, I'll just say I'm getting a field. But the Wonderlands, yes, the 3 books. It'll be a story. I mean, knock on wood, who knows? Someday, maybe I'll cash in and write a prequel or something like that. But I don't have any plans for that right now.
Okay. Yeah, anything's possible, and it's. Tell me if I'm wrong, but a lot of authors that I've spoke with, it's like their work initially, the way they thought of it, wasn't going to be 15 books or 4 or 5 trilogies within this one world, and just the opportunity arose or arise, whatever the word is, to do so, and it
Sure.
kind of helped bump them in that direction. But also, there's those authors who will do a trilogy here and have a wonderful story and the arcs, and they begin and they end, the characters begin and they end, and then it's on to something else. It just would, for me, I guess it would just depend on the opportunities. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that if you honestly and earnestly still have story to tell, like if I got into it and I was like, no, man, it's got to be 4 books. I just need or 5, or if I'm on book 6 and I'm like, this is what it's got to be, and it's coming from here, and I'm still on fire and giving you the story, then yeah, it's hard to call a shot from early on in the days, and I'll laugh at myself as fast as anybody if it ends up being 7 books or whatever. But I guess it would be more accurate to say I'm under contract for 3 books, right? That's all.
Okay.
It would be a discussion with me and other people if I ever made more than 3 books. But
it also, would that have something to do a lot? as well with the way that you write. Kind of, I'm jumping out a little bit ahead, but I'm going to ask it because the opportunity has presented itself. How is it that you write? Are you a pantser? Do you have things outlined?
I'm definitely not an outliner.
Okay.
I try sometimes, but I tend to find my characters and find my stories on the page. I'm a but I also am like I'm definitely not like a kick-ass Stephen King guy who just sits down and like does it. My process is I'll write my way into something. I'll hit a cul-de-sac because one of my characters did or said something super cool, and of course I had a plan because the at least the failures is very heavily plotted. Um, and then one of my characters will do or say something super kick-ass and cool that informs their character, or they'll zag when I needed them to zig, but the zag was awesome and heartfelt and true. And so that means I got to go and throw away like 30, 40,000 words and rewrite. And I have to do that literally hundreds of times in the process of
Oh,
writing a novel. So I'm actually, even though I actually write fast, I can write quite a few words per day. I'm slow overall because I throw out so much.
just you judging your work or other people editing it? What do you mean?
Oh, just me like getting to a point in the narrative, and I'll be like, oh, like either like somebody did something back here, or I made a mistake, or I just didn't, or I have an idea of how something could be cooler or better or tie in better. But a lot of times it's my characters just making a choice or a decision that is great, but means for the plot, for the very intricate plotting to work, I have to go back to here, throw all that away, and start again. And I mean, when I say throw away, I don't mean like it completely in the trash. Like a lot of those ideas and themes and instances like are already there. I just have to retype them and you just tweak them a little bit. I don't even know what I'm saying. I don't know how to do what I do. I just have to
No,
I have to
I
rewrite a lot, is what I'm saying. So
you have very much led me in the direction I wanted to kind of discover, and that's being familiar with the way that you write, like these characters and the way how important pretty much everything that they do and say is, bro. That's a feat in itself because things lining up page to page has to be difficult, man, and to say. Even if you're not a 100% planner or outliner, you do have somewhat or a crystal clear. I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking a crystal clear ending, and that's where you're heading towards with like the freedom of creativity. Or do you have an idea of exactly how it's going to end? I guess that's kind of why I asked.
I'd love to have super fun, quippy little answers for this stuff. Maybe I will eventually and someday. But the truth is, if we're talking about the mechanics of doing the thing for me, and that's the
Yeah.
only person I know, is I usually have an emotional climax in mind. I have like, oh, I want this character to feel this thing and do and say this thing with
Hmm.
another character, and it's usually something about how they're feeling or they've come to some internal thing, and that's sort of like what turns me on. That's what I want to write towards. But I usually know where I'm beginning, and I usually know like if you want to call that an ending, even though like sometimes the plotting and the climax happens after that.
Hmm.
Like I know the beginning, I know the ending. This shit in the middle, I got no fucking idea. Like I'm throwing
Brilliant.
balls in the air, they're falling all over the place. I'm throwing stuff out, I'm rewriting it. Sometimes because I want to get a character to this place, especially emotionally, but like to get again, I at least the failures or this trilogy is very heavily, very intricately plotted. So any changes affect like four other storylines, and it's a lot of just I call it kneading the dough. Like you just
Yeah.
your fingers hurt and it sucks, and it sucks to throw out 40,000 words and have to rewrite them. But you just when you need the dough, every time I rewrite something, I discover a little bit more about the underlying themes and what the characters actually care about and what I'm trying to say. And I'm able to just you subtly add little touches of that in, and it makes the whole when you need the dough enough, eventually it makes it all feel like you knew what you were doing the whole time.
Your answer 100% is beautiful, man. I love that. That is your answer, and that's what I'm after. And having, again, being familiar with the way that you write, and at least somewhat, like at the beginning of this trilogy, I see that. Like, I see that your writing is truly unique and very plot heavy, very character heavy, and these things that may end up happening could affect all of the previous work. And you really touched on that very well. It's not something that I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a writer. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it's not something that you can say, this is going to happen 100%, this is going to happen 100%, and then it's going to 100% in this way. It's a process, and you embrace that.
Yeah. Even the version that my agent Matt picked up, he's also a bit of an editor, so I had to go like 3 rounds of rewrites with him before we even tried to sell the book, as somebody mentioned to Daw. But the difference I threw out like there's a storyline of these 2 brothers named James and Chris that, like, the version of the book that Matt picked up, like the setting, the story, everything was completely different.
Really?
I remember he had a note for me one time where he was like, listen, so one of the main characters is Sophie, if you haven't read the book, or like Sophie is sort of the main driver of the plot.
Yeah.
But I thought it would be, I'm very like, I always want to do stuff different, like my cool, like, wouldn't it be cool if there was a book where the main character just like didn't do anything and the plot kept trying to happen to her and she was just like, no, I'm going to go get drunk with my friends.
Yeah, dude.
And then at the very end, like, fine, I'll be a hero. And I thought that was so cool. And he was like, dude, you can't do that.
In all your dreams. It's like, come on, Matt. No.
Yeah.
That's the insight, dude. That's the insight. I love that.
Well, I don't mean to keep jumping subjects or whatever, but that's like
please.
As a writer, feedback from yourself, like listening to what your gut is saying, is your first critic, but also like listening to what other people are saying. Like I think Seth Rogen said, this is a famous quote from somebody, but he was like, when somebody is telling you that something's wrong, they're always right. And when they're telling you how to fix it, they're always wrong. And I was like, that's
deep.
Yeah. Like, but you should, when people are telling you that something's wrong, especially when it's more than one person, fucking listen. That means something isn't working. And so that was a huge process when early days where I had to throw out giant chunks of the book and just sort of rethink what I was trying to do and say. Which again, in such a heavily complex plotted book it was heartbreaking. It was a little difficult.
I can't imagine. It's your baby, man. And I'm going to say this real quick because I'll forget. E.R. Phoenix, the wonderful lady I had last night on, she's the author of the Permissive Trilogy. Book 3 is going to come out later this year. She's a wonderful author. And she said something that the way that I put it was like, it should be in like the handbook, right? If there was something called like the handbook for writing, or like even just in general life, like put other people's eyes on your work before you consider it done, or if you consider it flawless. And I feel, based on what you just said, that is very important.
I could not agree more. You don't have a book until somebody else reads it. And you have to be careful about the feedback you ask for, and you got to know what you're getting. But yeah, get more than one. Don't get your very best friend or partner who might not tell you the hard truth to read it. Get somebody who I actually like. I have a couple of my friends that read the Failures in the Early Days are not science fiction and fantasy people at all. Some of them kind of didn't really read very much, and so their feedback was really helpful in a way of like, they weren't grading it on a scale of like, oh well, it's fantasy, so they're grading it on a scale of like, this isn't as cool as the movie I just watched last night. So that can be helpful. I don't know. Everybody's got to do it their own way.
I think it takes somebody that isn't in the club to have a fresh take on what's being discussed in the club. Like, Uh, for instance, I believe the example somebody used was um, not my close friend because, well, we're all close friends with somebody, and it would be really hard to tell them that if it did suck, that not necessarily that it sucked, but hey, getting constructive criticism from somebody like that would be very hard. And I love that you and multiple other people have made that point because that would be hard to do first. Like it's hard to ask for criticism, right? Usually
Sure.
it's just given, but when you go asking for it, it might be hard. Like, but I love that point, and I love Brian. He has been on both sides. He's been an early self-published author, like back in the day. I'm not going to speak on like the years exactly because I don't know, but based on me and him talking, like he knows both sides. Like he's been published and self-pub, and that's a huge part of it. Criticism and trusting those special people, whether or not to take it or to leave it. Yeah, that would be hard for me. I'm thinking about myself in that situation, and I'm a very defensive person, unfortunately. So that would be a barrier I'd have to break down. Is that something that you had to deal with, or was it a little easier for you?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's super easy for anybody. It's hard to embrace being wrong. Being wrong is uncomfortable, and when you ask for feedback, you have to like it's a high wire act because again, people will have thoughts about what is wrong and how to fix it, and they might not be right about that, but what they are
Mm,
right about is that something here isn't working. And so to take the sort of body blow or straight to the face sometimes of like, yeah, this doesn't work, and then let go of how much that hurts and just go, okay, something's not working, this is a data point. Let go of maybe the personal relationship, or maybe it hurts extra special because it came from somebody you like, or what the fuck ever. You let all that go and just go, this wasn't working, and let your ego go and let all that stuff go, and then try to figure out on your own how to fix the problem.
mm. That's
That
brilliant, man. I think we could all, even if we're not writers, take that and could use that in all of our lives, man. So I always love when somebody speaks on those points because it's not easy. Um, what's up, Grimfeld? It's good to see you here, brother. You're the legend. And Benjamin, yeah, he's definitely the legend, man. I hope that you guys pick this wonderful book up, and after this chat, I guarantee you'll want to. So we've spoke on the official parts as far as the Wonderlands. We have the Failures, your first novel. Would you speak on some themes you cover, some things that are important for you as an individual that you've put in your work, and if there's anything that you wanted to say as far as themes?
um so I've been writing this. I mean, it's reductive to say I've been writing this book for most of my life, but I started the first version of the thing that would eventually turn into this when I was 18, and
Wow,
I'm I'm turning 50 this year, so
there's no fucking way, dude. I would
yeah.
have never, I never would have guessed that, bro. I was thinking like 40,
uh,
38, like my
Well,
age, man.
thank you. I'm very immature, but no, it was a long while of sort of like almost everything that I liked and cared about, I would put into this thing. So there was almost overstuffed with themes, and one of the editing things that I had to do with the help of my agent and Betsy, my editor, is sort of like centering in on what's the core, what am I really trying to say. And
Okay.
it was really interesting because I one of the core things I think that I was really like going after, whether or not I articulated it or not, was uh, the idea that like in which is when you just say it out loud, you're like, yeah, no duh, but like entrenched power systems are a real fucking thing, and they're like, even in a fantasy world, like people people are not going to let go of power, and they'll do almost anything, and they'll lie to themselves in almost any way, and they'll come up with almost any way to hang on to their power. And when you throw in big fantasy science fiction ideas like saving the world and whatever, it was really interesting to me to play around with like less the idea of good and evil and more the idea of like have and have not, you know.
Sure.
So that was one of the things I enjoyed exploring the most. I'll say that.
No, that's beautiful, and I think you're very. There's something that we can all relate with, even if we don't necessarily have that power struggle within us. Like, it's very evident, as you said, in multiple aspects of the world we live in. And when you put it, I guess what I love the most is when you put that in a fantastical setting with the science fiction aspects that you did. It's very, I told you before we came on, the word that came to my mind was systematic or autonomic or mechanical in the way that I relate with these characters, or I mean, right off the rip, like first, second, third page, and I found that to be so like entrenching and compelling. I guess is the best word, because I can't tell you another book I've read like that. And maybe I'm not. I hope I'm representing it the right way. Uh, the way that West, which you'll meet right off the rip, speaks at the campfire at the beginning, which I'm not spoiling anything. It's the characters. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, it's very systematic in the way that they talk, and the sentences that the dialogue between the characters in that scene, especially. There's no guessing at what their what's the word, their goal is with the sentence that they're saying. I don't know. I overthink things all the time too, and that's just how I felt. Very systematic and mechanical, and I thought that that works so well in that mash of science fiction and fantasy.
Yeah, thanks. I'd love to say that was a goal when I was writing those things. Who knows? It's been a while since I first started it, but yeah, I liked having, especially with West, I liked having a character that thinks he is so Machiavellian and sly
Yeah.
and operating on all these levels, but really he's just the most obvious dude in the world.
Like Dad said, I didn't like. I have a weapon. I don't need it. Dad said to do this because when I do something, I'm going to do it the right way. Like
Yeah.
it right off the rip for me, man. It felt so like, I don't know. I find systematic to be the right answer for me, because it felt like almost as if somebody programmed these answers, and it speaks to just how the plot continues to grow, and characters as well. And it also leaves a lot of questions, like the way, especially the way the novel begins. You're like, hold on, but that is what. Remember, I said Patrick said a author that doesn't hold your hand. That's one of my favorite things, is to guess, but not throw myself so far into guessing that I don't enjoy what's happening.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed those aspects. Who would you say is uh, one or multiple? It doesn't matter what the answer is, but that you find to be an inspiration, maybe an author, a writer, poet, anybody, a movie actor, anything that you find has their hand in the way that you write.
Oh man. I have a lot of favorite writers, and ones that I think probably influenced me quite a bit. Um, I I'm a huge fan, though I don't think I channel it very well, but I'm a huge fan of the early cyberpunk authors, you know, William Gibson and um, Michael Swanek and um, Jesus, my favorite writer of all time, Neil Stephenson. They're just super spare economy of language. Sometimes, like, I mean, sometimes they don't hold your hand to the point where you got to reread chapters because you're like, what the fuck's going on? Um, but I also grew up on, you know, he's very rightly not talked about very much anymore for good reasons. But Orson Scott Card was a
Yeah.
huge, you know, huge influence when I was young, in the way that, like, he would have all these big sci-fi ideas, but he would always keep the camera right focused on the character and what they cared about, what they wanted. He never let his big science fiction ideas obscure the characters, which is that's something I've I try to do really hard, whether or not.
I'm a thorough believer in like separating art from the artist, man. I know that we always hear that, and like anytime somebody's like, I love this guy's work, but like he's not very good guy, I know exactly who you're gonna say.
Yeah.
But like I said, man, for me, like somebody can be a piece of shit and I love their work, like that's allowed in my house, like, so I totally get that, man. And another thing is I can't wait to read these. I know they're very household names or big household name. I have not read any of these authors. And when I see similarities, that's one of my favorite things, talking to Benjamin Lyer. Am I saying that right? Benjamin Lyer? Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's a fake name.
I was I was thinking earlier, it's like at a family reunion, man, he's definitely a liar.
Right.
Like I'm just thinking of these situations where that would be funny. But that, like Neil Stevenson and especially William Gibson is somebody that I really want to read. So when I catch those similarities, I'm definitely going to send you a message, be like, "Hey, I get it, man."
Yeah. I mean, I hope you see some in there. It's hard to go wrong with Neuromancer. Neuromancer is one of the great works of art of the 20th century. It's just
I've been convinced, even more so now. And I think there's like cyberpunk, that feel is aesthetically very attractive to me. So I don't know why I haven't, dived right in, but I haven't yet. I'm excited to. While you're writing, are you somebody that reads, or are you like on the grind, paying attention strictly to your work?
Oh no, yeah, you got to keep reading. Well, I mean, everybody does it different, right?
Yeah.
I do tend to try to read stuff that's very different than what I'm writing. Like when I'm really into the heavy fantasy and science fiction, I'll try to read like Lonesome Dove and Les Miserables. But also, like that's not a hard rule, and I read all kinds of stuff. I do tend to read. I read before I go to sleep. I'm one of those. I can't fall asleep without reading.
Yeah.
But I'll read when I'm really heavily into my writing schedule and I'm really grinding it out, which is not as often as I want. But I'll read a little less. I won't spend like all afternoon reading when I'm doing a lot of writing.
So yeah, you dial it back a little bit when you're grinding.
Yeah, and it's not like a conscious decision or some kind of willpower or move. It just, I think it's
time,
just sort of,
right?
Yeah,
it's time. Like you spend your time writing.
Yeah, and your brain, at least my brain, only has so much room for like words. There's like, okay, it's this many words. I only got this
100%. That's my wife. She throws up, which is actually a really good question. What would you consider the genre to be?
Of the failures?
Yep.
I have no earthly idea. But I also subscribe strongly to like some famous musician said that like we're here to make music. It's for other people to tell us what genre it is. I kind of like that.
Yeah. I think it's so with you in particular in your prose and your stories or your story and your characters. I would still continue to say what I've been saying. It's very good mash. It's a brilliant mash of science fiction and fantasy with, and me being somewhat of a new reader. And I know her, when I heard science fiction before as a non-reader, and my wife thinks of as science fiction is like beep boop bop beep beep boop beep, like, yeah, and it's not 100% like that. It's there's a journey in, I don't know, there's campfires and there's a mountain, there's things that are I don't know, it doesn't beep boop beep at me. So when you hear science fiction, it doesn't, for me and how I thought, it doesn't necessarily go to that extreme. But the mash is definitely what I would say. And she loved Lonesome Dove. I had to say that that was like her third book ever. It was like setting the bar high, right?
Yeah, it's one of my top 10. I love that book. Yeah, I would say like if when somebody's just asking because they're like, oh, I tend to like fantasy more or science fiction more, I'd say like The Failures. I wrote it to read like fantasy, so I
would agree.
More over in the fantasy spectrum for sure. Like there's swords and there's are magic and there's all kinds of stuff. The underlying thing is, at least in my zone brain, a little bit more sci-fi and thought out or whatever. We'll see by the end of the third book. But I think for most intents and purposes, it's a fantasy, right? With some fun sci-fi stuff in it.
I love that you said that and kind of reiterated it because I'm speaking, and I guess you're right too. I often don't feel as a reader or as somebody who reviews books or whatever that I have a say so in what the genre is. But every single person is going to feel different. But I do appreciate and love to hear what the author you had in mind, and I would have to strongly agree with what you just said. It feels very fantasy with those ins and outs with the sci-fi here and there. I do 100% agree with that. And yeah, dude. Everybody that's going to see it knows exactly what I mean by beep boop beep boop.
Yeah.
John, what's going on, man? It's good to see you here. I hate how I'm going to have to watch Lonesome Dove to know anything about literature. What? No, I wouldn't say that, man. It's just that I think you're playing somewhat jokingly at the fact that everybody loves that book. I think that it's brilliant.
I will say, though, that it's very hard to find. I had to pirate it. I don't even know where you would find or watch this, but they made a miniseries in the late 80s or early 90s of Lonesome Dove with Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Duvall. And it's nothing will ever be as good as the book, but it is. I mean, it looks like a 1980s miniseries on TV, so the production quality is not super great, but like it's. Yeah, I know you were joking when you said watch, but fucking watch it.
Like my wife said she watched it, man. Like I feel like my wife said and you're right. I haven't seen it like available.
Yeah, it's hard to find, but it's great.
Oh, he meant read. Okay, I got what you're saying, but I'm glad that you accidentally said watch because I need to watch that now.
Hey man,
I haven't finished the novel either though.
Anytime I get a chance to plug the late great Robert Duvall, I'm gonna take it.
Hell yeah, dude. Love it. Dude, he's a badass, period. What was the one he did with man, I'm getting off topic. I'm gonna absolutely just go down a Robert Duvall rabbit hole.
I should have warned you that this is gonna be a danger with interviewing me.
Absolutely. But I have to say also, Benjamin, that some of my favorite moments, man, was like there's a reason I do live interviews, and it's because we're unapologetically, and you can't even help it. We're human right now. Like everybody will see 100% how we answered and asked and all that. Like if I have a pimple and it bursts, right? People are going to see that's human as hell, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. Thank you for getting my layered crazy jokes. Absolutely, man. I got you. Robert Duvall is beast when it comes to being in some great movies. Absolutely. Yes. 100% transformative ones. And I think it's also hard for a modern, like in 2025, it's hard to imagine what the wild, wild west would be like, man. Even with all the movies that were made, you can watch John Wayne all day, but the things that we're subject to every day, I think it takes something special to represent that. And of course, I'll never know because I didn't live during that time. But either way, man, I love Robert Duvall. What would be actually? Sorry, I missed my other question. How did it start for you, or how is it going moving forward that you start a book? Do you work on plot first? Do you work on characters? How is it that you would start your huge journey of writing a book?
Well, I've only written 2 at this point, and they were both very, 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 very different from each other. Similar only in the sense that they took a really long time and were really, really hard to do. I'm medium far in on the second book in the series. And it's like a third case. It's completely different from trying to write the first and the second. And it might be just every book is it's going to be its own thing. Not trying to dodge the question, but it's also like, oh man. I would say generally speaking, it's a thing which I've done with some small screenplays and stuff too, where I usually have some like cool scene, like I said, some either emotional scene or some cool scene I want to write. That's usually near the end of the thing. Sort of like, ooh, I like I'll keep poking at the story and the characters until I have this like, oh, that would be fucking rad.
Yeah.
I want to write that, you know. Um, and then it'll just be a long process of, I call it banging my head against the concrete block wall of just, I don't know how to get there. I don't know what my characters want. I don't know why these things are happening. I can come up with cool things to have be happening all day, but I don't know why. I don't know how it intersects. And I'll just sit there and again, I'll have to write a bit, and then I'll be like, I'll have a character moment. I'll be like, oh, that's what that character wants. That's what they're about. And then, oh, okay, so I got to go throw some stuff away and go back and just bang my head against that concrete wall. And it's such an unpleasant, painful, awful process of trying to figure out like what's going to happen and why it's going to happen.
It's
I guess plot work is what you would call that. But then the day when like you hit your head against the concrete block wall and the wall goes and you just see a big chunk of the book spread out before you, and all you got to do is write your way through it. Oh, that's the best feeling I've ever found. Fuck drugs and sex, man. I'll take that every day.
There it is, man. Oh, I'm so jealous too, because I want to have that experience.
Helpful, but
what I hear is you have a natural way of writing, man. Natural for you. Like, you take those aspects that inspire you, you head in that direction, and along this journey to get there, you find things that will work. Along the way, you'll find some things that don't work, and it eventually gets to where it all makes sense.
So since we're talking about it, and I think the Renegade Bard in the comments had mentioned writing some books, and maybe we got a couple writers in here.
Oh yeah, 100, a bunch, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've read just about every book about writing. Oh, somebody mentioned like Save the Cat. Save the Cat's awesome. Tons and
I've heard.
I've made a study of other writers' habits. I've tried everything. I've taken a little bit from almost everything, but the only thing I know for absolutely sure is the only person that can teach you how to write is you. Like, nobody else's version of writing is going to work for you. Now, I might accidentally say something that hits in the right way. There's like a couple little things from Stephen King's On Writing that were profoundly important to my writing process, but I would say overall, me and Stephen King's writing process is nothing alike. But just take what is useful to you. You should try, if something is exciting to you, try it, give it a couple months, but feel free to discard what is not working for you. Just because it's working for somebody else does not mean it's going to work for you. Figure out what works for you.
I love that. And that's really the meat and potatoes of why I ask the questions I do. And man, and you've really displayed that, and I appreciate that, because it's not going to be the same. And I've also had people where a lot of the way that they write, even it doesn't make sense to me. Like, for instance, I can gravitate towards writers, authors that talk about their personal way of doing so. And I can say, I can see myself doing that, but I've also heard, things that I don't think I would ever do. So it just further backs up what you're saying, and really what I hope to display from my channel by talking to people like you, that there is no right or wrong, and it's really a message I needed. Like, no matter what I'm doing, because I do want to write, I do want to narrate. Nobody's going to show me the right way to do it 100%. I have to take accountability and further my craft and hone my craft my way. Take some tidbits along the way. But at the end of the day, your process or my process is going to be individual.
And I will, this is something I'm very fascinated with and really, really passionate about. But addending to what you were saying, and I don't want to like come at internet culture or come at
do what you do, man.
Talking whatever, because I like seeing people out there that actually care about books is has been so remarkable for me, and I love it. However, any internet culture and any grouping like this can lead you to think that there is one right way to do something. There's one right way to read books. There's one right way to organize your TBR. There's one right that, like, almost like optimizing the experience. And there's something about that, especially on the creation of the art side, that I'm very resistant to. And really, like, there is no, you're not going to engineer the perfect way to write a book and then sit down and write it. That is not how this works. Like, you're going to start writing, you're going to fail a bunch, you're going to write a lot of bad shit, and at the end of it, you're going to know this much more about how to write a book, and then you're going to probably have to start all over again for the next one. And I'm not talking to you specifically, but
no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, there's no right way to do it. I guess that's the only.
And I'm glad that you said that. You know, you speaking on the writing aspect, even like with starting a channel and talking to authors like I have, like, there in my mind, those who did it so well for me, like who inspired me to start my own channel. I didn't necessarily try to replicate anything, but I did take notes. And you're right, man. Like, I held myself to standards that I no longer do, because for me, with 4 kids and a life and all this stuff, like, those without kids can do that. Or, but I love that you said it speaks to me in so many different ways to find your way, no matter what you're doing, but especially writing. I love it. I appreciate you saying so too, man. It takes a lot of kind of insight into your own life to say such a thing, and you've taken the time to say it, and I appreciate it. Find your flow is 100% solid advice for sure. Creative to creative. I love that, man. When writing lyrics, sorry, I'm trying. Sometimes I miss things that are out of context, so I just want to make sure before throwing it up.
Take your time.
Yeah, in the best ways, John. I think that anyone who says, "Hey, I want to review books," it's kind of it's a marketing thing, but it's also like you're influencing and inspiring authors to be, readers to be, and making sure to say that this isn't the only way to do things, just like Benjamin just did, is so important. And I hope to further that message. What's a piece of advice that you would give someone? You've given a lot already, I know. But is there a piece of advice in particular that you would want to give a new writer, or a writer that wants to follow in similar footsteps that you have?
Just start. It sounds simple and it sounds reductive, but just start writing. Throw away the stuff that doesn't work. Show it to your friends. Take the hits. The only way to become a good writer is to write a lot of bad stuff. There's just, I mean, yeah, every once in a while you get somebody who's just brilliant out of the gate, but fuck that bullshit, right? Like,
yeah.
Certainly not me. Probably not you. So just get the bad stuff out of the way. If I have a regret as a writer, it's that I took too long trying to be precious and trying to. I didn't want to waste the time. I didn't want to have to throw stuff away. I wanted it to be good right off the rip. And I thought if I was just smart enough and tried hard enough, I would be able to skip the painful process of writing the bad stuff. But you can't. That's how you find your voice. It's how you develop, like, whatever is good about The Failures, right? My first book is good because of all of the pages I threw away. It's good because of all the mistakes I made. It's not good because I had some brilliant idea or brain or whatever. It's because I just kept going until it was done. So if I have a piece of advice, is just start. And also, just starting is like, you might discover that you don't really love it that much. I wanted to be a filmmaker so bad, obsessively bad, way more than I ever wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a filmmaker so bad until I got out there and started making films. And I was like, oh, I don't like this that much. There's so much of this that is not, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm up on a soapbox now, but like,
bro,
just start with permission to fail.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, start with permission to fail. Yes, dude. So I'm gonna just speak personally. Like, I really, really want to narrate audiobooks. That's something I'm diving into as of my present passions. And I've not started. I've been intimidated. Um, I've had some technical issues as far as like you really need a space and build a space where you aren't catching the engine going past your house. Like all that I've learned that. But um now I just need to put my foot in the door and do it and start learning because I think it's the same as what you're speaking on your writing experience where um I'm going to find my tone in the way that I do things by doing it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it, man. I think that resonates so much. I know it does for me. Who is someone in the future that you look up to who you'd like to see me interview?
Oh, I mean, I hope I don't pick somebody that you've already interviewed.
Even if you do, man, that's perfect.
Um, oh, that so there's lots of wonderful and great new authors that are around all the time. The one book and series of books and one author that I would love to meet and pick her brain the most is Ada Palmer.
Ooh,
Um, she wrote
new.
She wrote a book called Two Lakes of Lightning, which is just, I mean, it's dense and chewy. It's not for the faint of heart. Like
Mhm.
it's one of those like you got to read every sentence like twice. But it is there are more unbelievably cool, amazing ideas packed into those books, and her protagonist is literally just like one of the great like what do you call that unreliable narrators like
Okay,
I
yeah.
So and just like I know nothing about this author. Ada Palmer is just a fascinating person, and I'd love to meet her. I'd love to hear your interview with her. I bet.
Oh, dude, that's like one of the best answers I've ever gotten.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to be reaching out and being more familiar with her work because that sounds fun and influential, as I can see it has been for you. Um, so, what are you working on now, and what's to come? If you would, if you could kind of wrap up, well, I guess exactly what I said. What are you working on now, and kind of what's in the near future?
if I say anything other than book 2 of the Wanderlands, my editor will find me and murder me.
Bro, what
So
are you doing?
I'm working on that. Yeah, that's I think of book 2 as like the day job. Like that's that's always happening. I'll take little breaks here and there. It's it's going okay. It's not it's book these books are really complicated, and
Yeah, dude.
I'm right in the middle of the banging my head against the concrete wall process part of it. So I'm a little more tempted to be um, uh, words are hard.
Yeah,
Uh,
dude. I can't
Tempted,
imagine.
yeah, I'm probably like a little more down on it than I should be. It's going all right, but
Well,
um,
I think maybe I need to say this. I'm very excited for it. And I hope that puts no pressure on you other than just me saying that I think that you are creating something that's going to be talked about for a long time, something that I truly admire and I'm having so much fun with and that I'm very thankful I found.
thanks, man. I mean, that's the good kind of pressure. The pressure of people wanting more of the thing is always good pressure.
But take your time. That's what I'm like. I love what you're doing, but I want you to do it at your pace and be happy doing it. Like there's like people I was like, "Are you done yet? Are you done?" That's not me, man. Like I just want you to know that unequivocally, I'm excited for what's next, and do you, man. And as it
Thank you.
comes, just throw it out there. So I'm very excited. And for those of you who haven't picked up the work or are not familiar with it, it's without spoiling or seeing anything, because really with this book in particular, the first book, The Failures in the Wanderlands, it's hard to not spoil it. Like the plot is very technical and things happen for a reason, like everything. So I'm excited to hear more people starting to find it. And I see that. I see evidence of that. And I'll be one of those guys touting it and shouting about it too. So I just wanted to say, man, I know that some of the questions that I've asked were in particularly a little more difficult just because of the way that you write and plot and stuff, but you answered wonderfully, and I just wanted to thank you for carving a little bit of your time to hang out with me, man.
Oh, it was great, man. Anytime. It was lovely.
Oh, I'm glad, and I'll definitely be asking you to come back on in the future if you'd like to, and I hope that y'all in the comments that we're here live uh, pick it up, and I want to thank you as well. The YouTube stuff, like, share, follow, all that fun stuff. That way, more people see not just my videos, of course, but those that I have on. Any of the Are all your links in your link trees? I'm losing my voice, guys. I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah. I'm not the best at social media, but all the stuff is in the Linktree website, and where you can go. There's 2 different versions of the audiobook and Kindle's versions and all kinds of stuff. If you want to check it out, there's plenty of ways to do it.
Yeah, so I'm reading and I've listened to the one version of the audiobook. So there's the just true to the prose audiobook, and then there's like a dramatic rendition.
Yeah, if you've heard any of the graphic audio, like full cast things, they did one of those. It's awesome. That wasn't on my new author bingo card, so I was really excited to.
You don't see a lot, man. So and I think that's very cool. Now, I was confused, so if you could maybe just speak on it, what's the difference between the two?
So the graphic audio, the full cast ones tend to be abridged a little bit more. They go through and they cut out. For a normal book, I don't know how much. I was actually pretty pleased. Like, I worked with them on what they were going to cut out and what they weren't, and they didn't cut very much out.
Okay.
Which I felt, because it costs everything they do, it costs them money to do. So it's a compliment of sorts. But it's just when they can remove a few sentences and tell you that with an audio effect, or have a narrator paraphrase something. They do that a little bit, but I really, they're very respectful of the book, and what they do, as far as I heard and could tell, adds to it. Like, they're not.
Oh, that's good.
They're not
Because
book by any means.
Other dramatic adaptations that I've heard, it took too much of the book away. So I'm especially happy that wasn't necessarily the case for you, and really speaks to your work too. So guys, all the links that you'll need, and from my personal experience, you're very, very quick to answer questions and talk to people who are interested in your work. I know you have been with me, and I can see it. So I appreciate that. And like, again, and any of the links are in the description under his link tree. And I just want to thank you again, Benjamin Lyer, and y'all that were here live, and to those who will watch it in the future, man. So we will see you again soon. Thank you again. We'll see you guys soon. Have a wonderful morning, night, afternoon, wherever you're at. Thank you.
Thank you.